Just a general reminder for those joining us online, if you can just please state your name when you're speaking, and then for those that are here, just let's make sure to try to remember, turn on the mic. All right, meeting called to order. We'll go for second item, call to the audience. This is an opportunity provided to members of the public to make any comment that falls under MAC jurisdiction, and that's not on the agenda. I didn't receive any requests. Gordon, did you receive any requests?
No, we didn't receive any requests online either.
All right. With that said, we'll move on to the next item. Approval of the July 1st meeting minutes. The minutes have been included in the packet that was distributed last week. I'm hoping everybody had a chance to go through it. For those that have a case, I think you've had an opportunity to review that previously when Gordon distributed the minutes, the first draft. But either way, we can just take a quick minute or so to go through the minutes. As Gordon is kind of panning through the minutes on the screen, does anybody had a comment that they had caught beforehand? Or does anybody has any corrections or any additional note that we need to mark into the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes as written.
All right, thank you. Mr. Haransek? Is there a second?
This is Warren. I'll second.
Thank you, Warren.
Okay, this is a roll call for the July 1st, 2026 minutes. ADOT,
Yes.
Avondale, Avondale, Buckeye. Was that a yes?
No, I was asking Jim if he's there.
Buckeye,
Yes.
thank you. Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale, Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Tolleson, Youngtown. Is there anyone who I didn't call?
Jim?
Avondale's, yes.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Minutes pass unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. Thanks, everyone. We'll go into our workload, try to get through this. Case number 2601, miscellaneous corrections. I don't believe there's any new corrections that
Actually,
brought up, or
there was one that was brought in at the kind of the last minute. So
do you want to go over that?
yeah, this one was from, I believe, McDot. And it was just changing a typo from 2-inch long chain to a 2-foot long chain on detail 504.
You mind zooming in real quick?
That's the lower right. There you go.
Yeah, that's definitely a misprint, Mr. Chair, to have a 2-inch long chain there.
I am surprised that it hasn't been brought up.
Yeah, good catch on McDot's part.
Definitely meets the blooper requirements.
Yep. Anybody has any other comment on this? If not, it seems like everybody's saying very straightforward change. All right. I guess anybody else has a last minute correction to add to this month's meeting? No? All right, then we'll move on to the next case, 2604 revision to section 602. Arvid, would you be able to give us an update on this case?
I don't know if Arvid was on yet.
Mr. Chair, if Arvid's not on, I can provide an update.
Thank you, Gene.
So based on the last meeting's discussions from the committee members, wanted me to go through and look at shall and may. That was Peter's suggestion, which great suggestion, Peter. Went through and I did do some scratch outs and I supplied this to be posted for everybody to review. Now, since then, I still encourage everybody to review it, but since then, today I received comments from City of Phoenix Chair, MAG Chair Jose regarding some numbering and whatnot, and just kind of pointing out a few other items that need to be looked at. So I think I'm gonna need a little more time. Arvid and I are gonna need a little more time to go through Phoenix's comments, which I greatly appreciate taking the time to look at that. And then also, I realize I have not checked all the ASTMs to verify that they actually are correct ASTMs and the links are still there. So that's another thing on my to-do list, another action item for me. That's all I really have, Mr. Chair, if you want to open it up to the committee.
Yeah, just the group's benefits. Most of the comments that were made were more on formatting and layout of the specifications. There wasn't any really change to the language that's being used. I think Gene and Arvid have been putting a lot of work into this and it's clean. I think it's just mainly final touches. Does anybody else has had a chance to review that, or there's a pending question out there to ask of Gene since he's been heavily involved in it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
If not, maybe hopefully, what are your feelings, Gene? Since Arvid is not here, is there a way to potentially flush most of the outstanding comments by the next working group and maybe
Yeah, I can
should we
commit to
put
that.
a case, maybe consider for action next?
I can commit to that. Yeah, I'll get the revisions. I'll look through these, make any changes I think are applicable. I'll get it through the working group, clean looking version through the working group and get it in front of everybody and let's put it up for, I'd like to see it up for action at the next
Alright.
meeting. I'd like Arvid, I need to connect with Arvid because he's got to put eyes on it as well, but I think we can make all that happen.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, is next meeting is our last meeting for the year, isn't it? September.
no, I think September is our last meeting for the year and a potential option for
Yeah.
October, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Generally, we try to finish in September.
Generally, we do, yes.
Okay, so the hope is we can get everything ready to go by next meeting.
Correct, yeah, hopefully we're presenting final drafts on
Okay,
next meeting and other stuff that we don't want it to roll over, so.
okay.
And then we get, based on next meeting, then we can assess the overall team's willingness to potentially meet in October or not, depending on what's pending and what's critical.
If a case like that were going to go to vote, when would that need to be proposed? This month for next month or next month for October? Is that to be proposed a month ahead?
So typically, yeah, the item needs to be noted for potential action, so. Yeah, that's what's mainly why.
Yeah, which, Mr. Chair, it's pretty close. There's and the comments, I believe Gordon posted the comments, Phoenix's comments. So anybody can look at the two and figure out where they have their hangups on the case, if they do have any hangups or voice their concerns, but we'll get it in front of the working group and I think we can get it turned around for next meeting.
Next item on the agenda, case 2607. Updating the sign detail 131. Warren, I think you just gave us a fresh version this morning. Would you mind going over that?
Yes, thank you. I don't think that's the latest 8.5. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Gordon, for the last minute submittal. Not a lot of updates here, but on page 1, the additions are the drill holes there in the middle based on City of Phoenix comments. Hadn't heard back from Jose whether those drill holes apply all the way down the post, but for now, they're shown just on that top section. I went ahead and applied them to the type C as well, Jose.
Yes, I will get you some confirmation from our sign shop on that.
Okay. And then very minor change on the note there on the lower right. I just said see detail 131-2 and 3 for additional requirements since we've added 2 pages to this. So I think that's it for page 1. Okay, on page 2, the title remains the same. This particular page is specific to the type D. However, that lower right note, I realized that the placement applies to all types of bases, not just the square posts. So there's a little slight overlap, but just a note there. The only other change, or a couple changes on this, are in the lower right, that placement detail. First off is the note where it says 7-foot sign height per MUTCD. That'll pretty much be the standard for, right away. However, there are, from the working group discussions, we did touch on some other obvious types of signposts that are maybe the median one-way signs or the what do you call it, the diamond types of signs that are that are placed lower. So I added that note number 4 that says lower heights may be allowed per MUTCD for other sign types and placement. So that's the initial wording. If anyone has any preference, I think we can talk about that. And then also in the detail, still some drafting to do, but on the top of the sign, there is that option for certain types of signs where we have additional street name signage and the type of mounting product that's going to be used there. So right now I just have it as a general note saying mounting as required by agency and specified on plans. So that's new. And then page 3. We can jump back to these if we want to talk about any of these, but page 3, the name of at the bottom, the title of them is now anchor assembly and sign mounting types. So I haven't done anything more on this at this point. Still some final drafting. If I get some comments for the sign mounting, that's shown more of as a snip, and the anchor hardware mounting is a snip based on the Glendale detail. So those are the updates for this one at this point. Does anyone have any comments on any of those changes or anything else?
I did have a question. I don't know if I captured it right. So for type B and C on the 3rd page, at one point you'll be showing some CAD work on that picture, or is the intent to have that picture?
With the lower left mounting, is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Yeah, I don't have any CAD. That's just more or less a snip. Ultimately, if everyone has thumbs up that that's gonna be what they would like to see, I'll do some final drafting.
Okay, all right.
Was that for the B and C in the bottom?
Correct.
Okay, 'cause yeah, a picture like that, if they're printed in black and white, may not.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
color's not the best. We want to make it more legible. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think we have an actual snapshot of a picture anywhere else is on the detail, so.
But seems like the standard mounting type
Yep.
for a round post, from what I've heard, but that's the direction everyone would like to go. Like I said, we can do some final drafting.
The only thing just off the top of my head, Warren, I don't know, we need to add it as a note, but or I don't know, it's more of a note to the designers, or if this is on a plan for them to specify both everything, right? The type of foundation, type of pole, and type of sign mounting hardware at each location. Because otherwise it's kind of like a myriad of there's all the options are here. So
Right. Maybe let's look at page 1 again, where we have the notes that apply to all, and see if there's something on that might be added. Jose, you think we could add something under that list?
something along just to provide more clarity, that information needs to be provided on some kind of plan.
Okay. Okay, type. Okay, got it. Any other comments, thoughts?
This is Peter. I would just recommend on page 2, instead of having bullets, call those A and B. That way, if somebody specifies them somewhere else, they'll identify the detail number, note 3A or 3B.
Okay, I like
Bullets
that.
are hard to reference back to.
Okay. All right. And right now we've got the type D, and if you go to the next page, I just wanted everyone's input on this too. Do we like the type 1, type 2, type 3? Because on a square post, we're gonna have it'll be a type D, and then specifying the anchor assembly, then we're gonna say type 1 or type 2, type 3 anchor assembly. Does that seem okay to everyone? Again, those different types match up to the different ways our various agencies mount the signs and anchor the signs.
What was the question? What was the
I was
question?
just making sure, do you like type 1?
Okay.
And since we've already used type D, now we're gonna have type, the type that further defines what type of anchoring and mounting type is going to be on a type D. I don't know. It could have been option 1, option 2, option 3. I don't know. I'm just repeating the word type is the only thought I just throw out to y'all.
Maybe as another option to say type D-1, D-2, D-3, so it's understood as a sub option of the type D anchor assembly. I'm not.
Yeah, if you prefer a different way to do that, yeah, let me know.
This is Josh Ford, City of Buckeye. I kind of like that thought that Jose just mentioned, because I'm thinking about if somebody has to spec this in a construction node and a plan or on a table, you're like, well, type D, per 131-3, type 1, having the couple different types in there, it seems like a lot. So if it could be abbreviated down, leave the last specifying on the detail or in the construction or in the table that you would have to do, the better.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering, just some better ideas. So from Jose's, so we'd call it type D-1, D-2, D-3.
Yeah.
All right, I like that better. Thank you. Perfect. Anything else? The other thought is obviously it'd be nice to wrap this up, but this year, I don't know what's the feeling on how close this is then.
I think it's close, but I'll definitely open it up to the other agencies to see if they foresee a need to kind of send it to a round of cycle of review internally within your agencies.
And it's not, obviously, the agencies have details out there to use. So if we had to carry this over, so we have a good round of comments, that's not the end of the world. Right?
Well, I guess
I think, I
we
think
we can
change-
put it for a potential action, right? It's always a potential action. If it's not ready and there's no motions to vote on it, it'll roll over to the next the next month's meeting. So
yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd agree with that. I think if Warren can get those markups churned around pretty quickly and get it in front of the committee for full review, complete review, I don't see why we couldn't have it up for potential action at the next meeting.
all right, yeah.
I know it satisfies Glendale's needs and that's not the only thing we need to look at. But look at it as a whole, it's like, kind of like a menu, right?
Right.
No, I do like it because it's inclusive of every agency as far as that's kind of provided comments, so we can all use it to lay out or spec out the preferred mounting options. So, thank you,
Mm.
Warren.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll note it for potential action.
All right. Great.
We'll move on to case 26-08. I think this is still you, Warren. Revisions to the tracer wire installation specification.
Stop my video too soon. Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, so we were able to get some industry help on this. And then we had some more efforts getting a CAD person on board. So we do have some updates, and at the working group, Katie had shared one version and she'd worked on. However, this one supersedes. If this is the latest, Gordon, what was sent, this supersedes what was shared in the working group. So, and basically the comments here are a culmination of a lot of things that we've been talking about through the working group this year. So no changes to this detail 399-1. On this detail, everything, all the notes have been updated based on the previous packet. Some minor changes in the graphics, in the where you see the connection, the lug connection. There was some stray wire shown that came out of the working group to not show that. So just so the intent is not to have any exposed wire when it's buried. So that's been updated. That's it on that one. My notes here. And then this one here, obviously we've added the profile view of this. Some of the graphics I think we need to work on. Things are just too tight. We're gonna have to, the line types and all, we have some final drafting to work. It looks great when you zoom in, but not, but so we want to enlarge a few things. The grounding rod's a little small there, so we need to do that. Use some of the standard graphics from MAG for the earth symbol, some things like that. So we've noted a few things that we've already caught on these details. So again, this is some of the things we've been talking about, needing that profile view of the service just to clarify where the grounding rod is, and this hopefully should help that. So that's, and then that note number 2 was added that we talked about in the working group, matches the language in the draft for section 632, where if an agency wants to omit the grounding rod, that's an option. Okay. And then on this page for the fire hydrant, the notes were modified over on the right, and we caught one thing that came out of the working group discussions. It's just we need to add some additional language about the two terminal access box that's shown on the sheet 5. So still some further cleanup there. And then on page 5, same thing here on the sewer service. The profile is now shown below the plan view. Same need to show the earth symbol, and the note number 3 was added. Let's see, I think we had 2 on there. Yeah, 2 on there. The marker ball was on there last year too, but note number 3 was added that allows for, and again, that matches the language in this section 632. Just, you don't have to necessarily have one on every service, or if there's a conflict. So it's just some language there. I'm reading this, and maybe I think we need some more wordsmithing on that, but that's what we've been talking about in the working group. And then what's required is that it to be connected, the tracer wire, with a buried twist lock connection. So anyway, some similar comments just to make sure it's the grounding rod needs to be a little larger, and just some clarification for when you're out in the field. So that's it on that one. And here, I think we changed the name of this was tracer wire for termination at sewer manhole, just to clarify what the intent of this detail is. I think that was it. See, yep, just the title. So the long-awaited comments are here, so thank you for the patience for us to get this to you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comment for Warren?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Warren. Warren, I know you guys use a lot of tracer wire. Have you handed this to any of your contracting partners and asked them if they can basically make heads or tails of it, just to see how they interpret it? They're not involved in the case like we are.
Right.
And my perspective is going to be a lot different than theirs. I think it makes great sense. It's very, for me, I understand it, but like I stated, it's the different, I'm looking through a different lens than they would be. Have you tried handing it over and getting some help?
But we definitely need to do that. Like, so this is somewhat hot off the press now that we have otherwise we've had just the markups that we've been sharing for a few months now. But yeah, we definitely need to do that. We've had a couple, obviously some water main replacement projects that prompted a lot of these changes that we're trying to get in here. But yeah, definitely, Gene, that's a great idea to now share the drafts with them to see if this is going to help clarify or add more questions. So, but we need to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
And maybe share it with the fire departments too. You know what happens with civil work is it'll spill over into the out of right of way work. Fire departments do not like anything on their fire hydrant, near it, around it, by it, a ground rod. I'm telling you, I don't think we're going to get caught in a catch-22 where you got to do this, and the fire department's saying, no, we don't like that. I just think that it might be a good idea.
And you're absolutely right. I did back when last year, I'd shared this with our fire marshal, but our fire marshal has changed. So maybe their opinion has changed, but yeah, we did share this with them, and because I was thinking the same. It's like, are you going to have any issue with something that's in particular attached to it? But they didn't seem to be concerned with it, but other fire marshals may have some comments. So that's a good comment.
Warren, I had the same experience early on when you first introduced this case. I ran it through the fire marshal office, and they had no opposition to it, which I was shocked.
Yeah. That's good.
Good points. All right, Warren, I think this one might need a little bit more time to refine, so we'll play it by ear.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next case, which is also yours, by the way. 2609.
All
I
right.
gotta congratulate you. You're very active in the community. That's a good thing. Revisions to section 631, the water tap and meter connections specification to include PEX A.
Right. No changes from June. I haven't received any comments. This is just basically the material spec to integrate the cross-link polyethylene material into this spec.
All right, and I think this is the same version you've shared for, what is that, we're in, couple of months now, right?
Yeah, I haven't received any comments on this.
What's your sort of the working group's feeling on it? I mean, if there hasn't been any new changes or comments, does any agency member have the need to have more discussion on this?
Yeah, I think we've incorporated the comments from the working group from a few months back in that page 1. So I see Jim's ready to speak up, but I think we didn't have much feedback on the last working group. Jim?
No, I was just gonna remind you that, remember we had that discussion about removing the specific manufacturers' names, and I think they were gonna, like, it references a part there, Ford. So that's the only thing I think we were gonna do, is just take out reference to specific manufacturers, and other than that, I think that was it, so.
Oh, I see that now. Okay, maybe I didn't, because wasn't at the last working group. Did that come out of that, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, apology.
I caught that, and I wanted to say, no, we're kind of wanting to eliminate any reference to specific manufacturers, and so, you know, they didn't have, and nobody had really a problem with that, so, Jeremy was okay with that, so.
Okay, good. Okay, so I see Ford there. Is it also stated in the other one above?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so we need to fix, okay.
And that was really it, I think, so.
Did anyone have any suggestions on how to take that product out?
No, Jeremy said he was just gonna do it, so I guess we're still waiting on a revision for that. I mean.
All right, I'll reach out to
complicated.
Jeremy then. Okay.
You may be able just to cut it out and just go straight to recoupled with approved brass compression fitting or something like that.
That sounds consistent. Okay. Improved consistent. Okay. All right. Well, given that I can make that change, does anyone have anything else that?
All right, I think if with that, Warren, we could put this one up for potential action.
Yeah.
Because it is really a minor change. So.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next case, 26-10. Changes to filter fabric references in section 796.
Yes.
Peter,
Yes, thank you.
your case, can you give us an update?
Yeah, I think, again, we presented it last time in lieu of doing this is a blooper case, because it did have a bit more language revisions and it did change the material to something that it was been described as more appropriate and referencing an existing make section. I've received no comments
Okay.
on this. Again, the process here was we were the valve box material filter fabric now references a filter fabric that's already in section 796 and in table 796-2.
No, this is a pretty straightforward
Yeah.
case as well. I was gonna ask, Gordon, do we need a clean version of the spec to vote on it, or is it, can we vote on something like?
You could vote on this if you wanted.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's straightforward. It would be nice to get a vote on it, get this one off the table.
Yep. I'm the same way. Does anybody have any objections to that? If we could put this up for action, next meeting, I think it's worth it. It hasn't changed in at least 2 months, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was
Mr.
never
Chair,
really
I
any
think it's,
dispute.
I think it's pretty straightforward, Peter, and
Like to request a vote.
so you put it up for action.
Yep.
I'd be in support of that.
Can I make the motion to do it then?
Not today. I think it has to be
Oh,
for the
we
next
didn't-
meeting.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
up for action
yeah.
yet.
Not up for
Okay, we'll
action.
just put this up for, we'll vote next time. Okay, thank you.
Next case. 26-11, changes to the compaction specifications throughout MAG. This is my case. And I apologize, I meant to prepare something from our last discussion. Gene, I know we've been going back and forth offline on this topic. I was going to prepare a draft, but I think the major comment that I received from you was related to kind of clarifying the when we say compaction within plus or minus 2% of the optimum moisture content, what that optimum moisture content is. The latest conversation that I have with some of the staff back at the lab, because throughout MAG, a lot of the compaction specifications is pretty mute in relation to the actual Proctor test method to be used to develop the moisture density curve. A lot of the specifications just call out a percentage specification. They'll tell you whether to use a standard or modified Proctor.
Yeah,
And there are cases where we need to rely on a 1 point. I think there's only one section in MAG that the bands they use for 1 point, which is aggregate-based course construction,
Right.
specifically prohibits 1 point for AB. But with that, we can enhance the language to say be within plus or minus 2% of the optimal moisture content from the moisture density, the relationship curve used for compaction testing. But I would not want to specify the test method at this point because of that reason. Because if you're making a evaluation of compaction based on 1 point, but we say you have to be plus or minus 2 of the standard Proctor curve, things are not going to jive in the field.
and I agree with you. When I first read it, I was not seeing any reference to any kind of test method.
Yeah.
So that's what flagged me. I'm like, first thing I thought of was 2%, plus or minus 2% of what?
Yes. It is surprisingly that we're able to figure it out, and we can take this case and try to start developing that, but
No,
would,
I think, Mr. Chair, I think plus or minus 2%. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, but I think plus or minus 2% of optimum moisture, I feel that's clear enough. And it is, precedence has already been set using that in other places. It was, like I said, it was just a flag that popped up for me right off the bat, because I was wondering what, when we would run a modified Proctor and a heavier hammer, we'd have a little different tolerance on moisture than we would with a standard 698 Proctor.
yes. But I did went through the test method wherever the specs do outline the Proctor to be used. It's always a standard Proctor, whether it's a reference to the ASTM version or the Astro version.
Okay.
There's not a reference to the modified Proctor in here, so.
Mr. Chair, were there a
Yes.
couple sections in there that we discussed? It should be more appropriate at 90 instead of 95% compaction as well.
That is something I need to work on related to going to the intent of the initial case was to kind of mimic whatever we had in our city supplements. So I have to go back and look to see if it's worth changing the compaction requirements to 95. But I don't know if that was something that was discussed at the working group.
I don't think we discussed the
No.
percent tax. Briefly.
There was something, was it
We did talk
expansive?
about
Expansive soils, and then there was potentially another application in that cluster that it, because it had an optimum moisture, it was changed, but the 90 was changed to 95, and it would have been more appropriate at 90.
Okay, so I believe the intent is mainly the inclusion of the moisture content, not necessarily the compaction requirement.
So not changing the percent compaction, just changing the moisture. Okay, okay.
Yes, so I'll do that as my homework to present them cleaned up case for next meeting. And then be this distributed throughout the working group and have members have one more chance to look at it and potentially make it part of a potential vote on our last meeting.
It does reference 90% several times in earthwork for open channels.
Yes.
Section 215. In bullet A, it was changed to 95% because this is an area where you're filling in a void. Now, how large is that void that you're filling in could mean that you a larger compaction.
Couldn't hear that.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. We forget that the voice doesn't travel from the members or the audience. This is Rob Duval with the City of Phoenix.
Hi, Rob Duval, City of Phoenix. Yeah, so in section 215, earthwork for open channels in bullet A, there was a reference to 90%, and that was changed to 95% within plus or minus 2% optimum moisture.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them that change
Yeah,
from
there's
90 to 95.
several
Yeah.
of them, yeah. So there is one above that where it's talking about the subgrade, and that's not with a void in that channel. So that's I left it at 90% there. But if there was a void that you were filling in, depending on how large that void is, you may need a larger compactive effort. So it was changed. I changed it from 90 to 95% with that intent that you're addressing a specific need. And then fill and backfill, 215.4 also was changed from 90 to 95% because you're bringing in fill material. So in that instance, I think you would need a higher compactive effort in that instance instead of a 90%. So that's why those percentages were changed.
So taking it back to industry, because this is not something I
Yeah.
personally, but taking that back to the contracting group, where the 90s have been changed to 95 is intentional at this time.
Okay.
I want to be clear so I can.
Let's circle back, yeah, so that we can go through it and maybe just have a chat on the compaction requirements. The only thing I can think of is going through all the applications to see whether or not it was intended to maybe mimic undisturbed soil as opposed to getting a higher compaction, so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
please understand, I'm not arguing for or against. I just want to make sure to
Yeah.
take it back to the contracting group. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think those were the only two. And like we mentioned, there is a mention of expansive soil. In that instance, you would keep 90% with a +3, a 0 to
Yeah.
+3 moisture content.
Yeah.
That's standard operations.
That would only be for working with an existing native material, right? Any import should not be expansive, so.
Correct, I believe that's section 340 where it talks about expansive materials. So. Yep. But yeah, that applies only for, and that's the existing version.
I mean, if we're going through and cleaning it up, I just want to make sure we make that distinction that, different between working with an existing soil in place in situ and, scarifying a subgrade that's existing where you encounter expansive soils, but and obviously if you're importing that material should not be expansive.
Yeah, I can go back and clean that up, Jim, and add a line to say when encountering existing expansive soils, not to clarify that that only applies for in situ materials, not import.
Right, because then it depends on how bad it is. I mean, you might be able to work it with the moisture, add more moisture, or you might have to mitigate it or remove it. So we just run into we always run into confusion on this with the contractors. It's good that we're cleaning it up though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that we can clarify to make sure that the initial approach to compact on the wet side of Optimum is only intended for in situ materials. I will say that finding different ways to mitigate expansive soils is its own animal. And yeah, no, that is very challenging. And I don't know that it'd be worth it. We couldn't create a spec to that. We almost ultimately have to follow back to recommendations of a geotechnical engineer. So
I think years ago, we tried to do that. I think we were looking even for the outside right away. I may have an old version sitting around somewhere. We were looking at mitigation of expansive soils. But yeah, it was all based on this whole concept of over optimum. Yeah. I'll go look, see if I can find anything. If I can, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
You remember writing the language at one time?
No.
Maybe going back 20, 30 years.
Is that for what's considered expansive? Is that what you're referring to?
Defining and then.
Are you referring to section 340, table 340-1 by any chance?
I need to go.
that's
look
the one
deeper.
section that talks
Yeah.
about expansive
Yeah.
soils, but that's really related to flat work, right? So it's
It is.
very,
Yeah.
very concise, not other issues that we may encounter with expansive soils.
I'll go look, see if I can find it.
But no, that's great feedback, Jim. We can clean that up and then we can definitely go back and clarify the intents on the expansive, on the compaction requirements. So. And I'll have something before the next working group so we can finalize it.
I think we can get it out in the interim as well for comment, and if things line up, then it's a non-issue to try and expedite that as well.
All right.
You
Yeah.
know, this is something we're trying to do in rapid fashion.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely share it and then we'll see where the consensus are with the comments. So. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions or comment on this case? All right, we'll move right along. Case 26-12. Revisions to detail 203. Marty.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We made a few updates since the last time. Yeah, those are the updates I made. This is not the clean one. The clean one's on the next page. But we updated note 1. Bring back one of the original sentences for the angle equals 45 degrees. And that specifies on the plan. I think you got a typo there, and fix that. And also say if there's anything other than 45 degrees, that's L and D is per plan. So the designer would need to count that and put it on the plan. Our construction engineers downstairs had an issue with one of the piece on it. I don't want to use the word extension piece, but the one that's where the safety goes at. So with our structural group, we with number 4 rebar, and I ran the safety roll is required to have that wrapped around that. And that's basically about it. That's how we updated, I believe, for a sheet. So if there's any questions of that, I know there was an issue or there was a discussion last time about the pedestrian guide about the within 2 feet. That we needed a safety rail within 2 feet. That was recommended. Our contention, I discussed this with our management, and I guess our intention or our thinking is that if we add additional 2 feet so that we not within 2 feet, that will be an extension of sidewalk and pedestrians can still walk in that area. So they still wanted to proceed with this, with any comments? So any questions?
Um,
Yep.
The only comment that I had when I was glancing at this, Marty, is
Yeah.
I don't know that I eventually got it. The reference to the clear cover requirements where you have that little circle.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if it's a better way to convey that. I mean, it sounds like they're all 3 inches. Should we just specify 3-inch clear cover to rebar for extension or something instead of that?
I think I'm okay with that. I did think, I'm not sure I like the way they did that either, in design, and I have that, discussion with them. So we can definitely look at that, did this the other way. And the reason they did that is because it becomes congested with a lot of dimensions. The dimensions get close to each other, and they didn't want, something to be, misinformation going to, so, but yeah, I'll have that discussion. We can take a look at that. So definitely make it better. Also, I'm not sure if I like, and I'm taking a look at this now again, and there was this new skipper and safety rule is required per plan. Well, that's only for the safety rule portion. So either way, it's gonna be cut out and replaced with the scupper if it's a retrofitted or if it's a new scupper. So I'll take a look at that as well. So if something can be better there.
So Marty, this is Roy over at the city of Scottsdale. I was just trying to remember on the need for the safety rail.
Yeah,
Just as I guess I was just thinking, just as far as and you might have mentioned it last time, and I apologize, I don't remember, but if there's a specific like an AASHTO, are we putting something in that's got another agency or another reference that we can stand behind that this is why it's required?
Only Texas DOT. So I did the research. I took a look, and the only thing I could find at that point is Texas DOT. Texas DOT it has the same kind of referencing that we do in our RDM, because our RDM states that but we have a scupper that functions as a sidewalk. In this case, that we need to have a safety rule. So that's like mandated in our RDM. So if we didn't proceed with MAG, that we would definitely create our own supplement detail. So that's what we've been doing in that case. But we do reference, and this is how we came up with it, from the guide for the planning, design, and operations of pedestrian facilities. I think it is noted in section 3.37 for protection from drop off, and it's only a recommendation. So in this manual, this AASHTO guide, so that and slopes of 1:1 basically of parts deeper with a drop off of 1 feet or steep or greater, should have that if it occurs within 2 feet of the sidewalk. So, and some of our have issues. We've had to do that in the past. We had to retrofit or go after the safety rail on those in the on some that we did in Sun City. But they're basically in the ground and in the back there. And that's in one of the images as well that was posted. And that's the reason we're proposing this request. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, thank you, Marty. I guess my only concern is just if we're not, if this isn't like an AASHTO requirement or something else, and I'll let the rest of the committee give their thoughts, but my thought is that this could also bring additional liability to all the other member MAG agencies for either other existing or proposed things that are out there. That if we have a standard detail that calls out one thing that we don't necessarily have an AASHTO, we can't point back to a requirement that we're gonna the different agencies are gonna have to live with that liability of because it's on a standard detail and that just I just have concerns with that.
Okay, yeah, and in the guide, it's just a recommendation, it's not a requirement. So you just make that recommendation, and then a decision was made like a year ago or so to make a requirement in our roadway design manual for all scuppers. So that's simply,
Peter, were you trying to say something?
Yes, this came up in the outside right-of-way meeting we
I
had.
was
the
in
other
there.
day. And yeah, and so, yeah, that what we thought was at the time that the note on there that says extend scupper when safety rail is required per plan
Yeah.
temporarily takes that responsibility of, it's not mandatory. You have to
Yes.
plan. So
Yeah, so you definitely want to point that out. Sorry, Jay, we definitely want to point that out that we changed it from the original intent to require per plan to just let it be jurisdictional option. And,
yeah, and our thought was that the next step, which you talked about, Roy, is something we should research and have, and the working group did propose that we research this and propose a discussion next year, maybe even a case for when would safety rail be required based on the geometry of everything behind the sidewalk and or drops. Instead of worrying about it right now, I think you're covered here, but we should review it and come up with more of a rationale for if safety rails are required, when they're required. Taking the Texas work, the items in the that ADOT had done, the City of Phoenix detail that's existing, and just common sense on what would be a drop that would be required and when would you do it.
I will say that I share Roy's concern, right? A couple of things. A, if there's the detail that is adopted by MAC, but then different agencies choose to not apply it, there is that liability that Roy potentially pointed out. But the other thing I wanted to point out, Marty, is should there be a line to show that the scupper extension and rail is an optional? The way you have it written right now, where it says new scupper when safety rail required by plan, it makes it, the rail is optional, not necessarily, but doesn't talk about the extension. So
right, and I think there was a discussion last time. In the previous submittal, there was a line there. There was a dash line separating the sidewalk edge to the extended part, but we just didn't want to think that they're just extending the scupper, because it's not just an extension of the scupper, it's a complete replacement of the scupper when they do the safety rail. So we can rethink that, you know, but the line back in, but make it clear that in this come, I did use the word extend last time, and took that out, thinking that they might think all that have to do is put concrete on the backside, and that's an extension. So versus saw cutting the original out to get a new plate and everything, and that has to be, you know, to the size dimension given. But yeah, we can.
And maybe it doesn't have to be called extension, maybe additional 12-foot behind sidewalk and the safety rail are required only when shown on the plans or required by the plans.
Okay.
Extend scupper and install safety rail when required per plan.
Something along those lines, something a little bit more clear. 'Cause I think McDOT's intent is that the information lives in MAG, right? The requirement lives within your roadway design guidelines. But that way it'll jives in there. And I'll let some of the other agency members true also comment about, the whole thing, whether or not it's required. But I do vote in Peter's opinion that ultimately we probably are better off developing like a more solid guideline of when safety
Okay.
is needed.
This is Warren. I think I like that language. I mean, obviously, we're relying on the engineer. If the engineers put it on the plan, there's probably a reason why it was determined. So if they followed the county's guidelines or followed some other agency's guidelines that led them that way, or for whatever reason they put it on the plans, then that would, but at least we have something in MAG that says safety rail and how to do it, but doesn't tell them you have to do it, right?
Mr.
And
Chair,
this is Roy, and I guess that's my concern also with looking at the detail with like the section A and the section B. We're calling out the safety rail. I'm not seeing an asterisk or anything there that says that it's as required by, basically to your point that this is an engineered decision as to whether the safety rail is put in.
And that's, we can correct that. Make that adjustment. And I think I did have safety, I think I have been in practice plan on all at one point, optional.
Mr. Chair, the only comment I have to leaving it up to quote, air quote, the engineer is the engineer record is going to refer directly to this detail 203 and just call out the detail. They're not going to go into specifics of the detail. So it's going to ultimately be left up to the guys out in the field to figure it out. If we go that route. I know with Glendale, if there's more than an inch drop, and I don't know where this comes from, and I will do a little bit of homework on it, Marty. If there's more than an inch drop, it's not compliant because you don't want to lose a wheelchair wheel off a 6-inch drop. That's a liability. We can argue the liability differences all day long. The fact of the matter is Roy's got a good point, and not having a safety rail, losing a wheelchair, that's a huge liability as well. So two things can be true at the same time here. I'll see if I can dig up anything, Marty, on whether it's a PROAG or ADA requirement, or if it's an AASHTO, or where that came from. But even MAG references a 1-inch reveal on the back of the curb for the park, or on the back of the sidewalk for the parkway grade. So it's not something we just pulled out of the air. It came from somewhere.
Okay. And as far as we can tell, ADA didn't say anything about this topic. As far as we can tell. So, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll look into it, see what I can track down. If everybody else can look into it too, that would be helpful.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Jim.
I had a comment. It's more general with naming, not to get into the specifics of the case, but we had an incident where a developer, and it got missed on the plan review, where they referenced this detail 203, and Avondale, we don't ever use these steel scuppers anymore. We consider them old school. We've actually replaced a bunch of them with the concrete ones. Well, the problem is the title, as you can see, just says scupper, so it got referenced, and it was meant to have been, it should have been a concrete scupper, and instead this, and so we had a fight, with the contractor, and I said, why are we calling this a scupper? It's confusing with the detail 203. So I'm not advocating to remove this detail just because we don't use it, but it's like, I think we need to change the name and, maybe say steel plate scupper or clarify it, because some of these design engineers are just, picking and choosing, and plugging the number in, and if it gets missed and the intent is a concrete scupper, I just think the name needs to be clarified. I propose you calling it like a steel plate scupper, just something to separate it from the concrete scuppers.
Do you know the top of your head, Jim? Is it 240? Is it called concrete scup?
206, there's a couple of details for 206 that address the concrete scupper, which is, pretty common. But the problem is that people miss this and because of it's not clarified, and you got some of these design engineers that just pick a number and throw it in there and it gets missed, and then you're putting the wrong scupper in. So I'm just clarifying, let's just clean up the title of it, maybe call a metal plate scupper or some, whatever we agree to, but something needs to be, call this out different than the concrete scuppers in the title.
This is Warren. I'd agree with that, Jim. That makes sense. And, the whole term about the ADA and for a pedestrian route, they refer to smooth, stable, slip resistant. I mean, the steel plates, me personally, I mean, we don't use this as well. We do use steel plates where we absolutely have to, but we try not to use them as well for some of those reasons.
I mean, you see them in some commercial developments, like along the sidewalks on buildings, or they say they've got roof drains or whatever, and so they'll call them out, but usually they have their own detail for it. But I've seen this happen more than once where there's just confusion in the name, and all we need to do is just put like metal plate scupper, just something to clarify it, to distinguish it from the concrete scuppers in the details 206.
No, Jim, I agree. That's a reasonable request. No.
Pretty easy, I don't know. I know it's beyond the scope of this case, but what happens, these
Mr.
cases.
Chair, Jim, I agree with you. I think if we're gonna push this case, let's revise that title, that name as well. There is confusion with the two.
All right, thanks. That was it.
Does anybody else have any other comment on this particular detail?
Yeah, they're a maintenance nightmare.
Yes, I think we can all come up with a lot more cons and pros on this detail.
The screws always, the head of the screw always strips out. And
Were any of the concerns with safety and those rails addressed in 206?
I think we've had a couple of discussions on that at least on 206, it's a little bit more justified because your drop is more than what the typical drop you see when you use this.
Just wondering if you could
scuppers.
borrow verbiage or approach there.
No, I'm not sure there's any language related to safety of a drop on 206.
no, there's not.
I think you got some homework, Marty, to maybe a couple more refinements on this. And if you can, unfortunately, I don't think we gave you specific language, but if you can try to capture some of the conversation.
No, I go back to the video. So I'm gonna go watch back to the video. I got the time 2:30 or something, 2:30, 2:35. So I can go back and capture that language, make sure I got it right. So make that address. So and thank you for your feedback.
All right.
I was just gonna say, this is Roy, just real quick on that 206. There is a note, it says a 12-inch offset distance shall be increased to 2'6" for designated bike paths. That's where if we were able to extend it out for 2 feet, then we wouldn't even need the handrail.
What is that 206-2? Where are you?
206-1, note number 5. It actually calls out increasing the offset if there's going to be, if this is going to be put where there's going to be a bike path. The bottom, bottom right there. 12-inch offset distance shall be increased to 2'6".
But it is not excluding the use of a safety rail.
No, what I was saying was per the AASHTO requirement, I think if I understood what Marty had said earlier was if it's more than 2 feet, then the AASHTO or then the safety rail is not required. So if this detail showed a 2-foot extension, we wouldn't need a safety rail.
Let me clarify, so I don't get myself in trouble. Actually, yeah, that's what the guide says. So we want to say that the guide says if that occurs within 2 feet, but I think MDOT's contention is thinking is that if we make it, if it's a walkable surface area, so if you have the sidewalk, 6 foot sidewalk, 5 foot sidewalk, and you extend it 2 feet, you're still making that area portion of the sidewalk. So it doesn't matter how far you go out if it's a walkable surface. And that's, the McDOT thinking on that it still may apply or still would apply for the slope and the drop off.
Yeah, Marty, I was going to respond pretty much the same way, as it's still walkable surface. It's still accessible surface. I think that 2-foot extension, in my opinion, my interpretation is more designed for the landscape area before we go into a slope.
That's what our thinking is.
Yeah.
Because if I have a 6-foot sidewalk and I do a 2-foot extension, well, now I just have an 8-foot sidewalk.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not sure that the note probably talks about eliminating the rail when you increase that offset, but I think ultimately, kind of suggest a more need to develop a better guideline on the placement of safety rail and from, yes,
Or at least, Mr. Chair, identify where it's coming from,
yes.
where it's derived.
All right, we'll move along, Marty, and hopefully we got more information for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Case 26-13, revisions to section 750. Jim, I think this is your case. Was there any new update from the working group?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So we just had a short discussion kind of on the language part of this. And we kind of discussed we're just again trying to match what the AWWA C-104 says. And so we kind of discussed two approaches. Either call out the option or maybe just leave it out because it's actually the option is included in C-104. So the committee or the working group was kind of leaning towards just leaving it out. So that's kind of what we wanted to do is just kind of leave it out, and you can see it was struck out there. So that it'll just simply read now, pipe shall be cement mortar lined in accordance with AWWA C-104. That's kind of what everybody kind of thought might be the easiest way to do this. So that way we're in compliance with it, and it cleans it up, makes it current. So that was really all we talked about on it. And I haven't had any other comments either way on it since then, so open for discussion.
Yeah, does anybody have any new questions or comment for Jim? This is up for possible action.
No, I'm in support.
All right.
Just, Jim, I've got one question, or maybe it's a couple questions here. Is there an option, they make a cement mortar lined pipe that's not seal coated?
Yes.
I'd have to check on that. I would imagine you could order it that way.
So,
So-
Ryan, if you don't mind, I can help answer that question.
Please.
With the seal coating, there's different the way I understand it, talking to industry, is there's different curing methods. Some cure in maybe 100% humidity room, where others need to use, almost like we do on sidewalks with a white pigmented curing compound. They'll use a seal coat on it for the curing. Now, whether or not they may have a different curing room method. That's why it's optional. So if they don't, according to the AWWA, the C-104, that spells out when a seal coat should be used and when it should not be used. That's the way I understand this.
So I guess a follow-up question on that, and let me preface this by saying, one of the challenges I know that we have in Mesa is that the contractors do not have a copy of AWWA C-104. Our inspectors don't carry a copy of that out in the field. Everyone has access to the MAG standards and specifications, but they don't have access to AWWA. if there's a chance or a probability that a contractor orders a pipe material that arrives on the site and it does not meet the needs of the project because it's possible to order it without a seal coat or without, whatever, in some format that doesn't meet the intent, and we have to reference and point out in AWWA the specification that says you've got to do this and that, that's a little bit problematic. If there's no chance the pipe shows up on the site with issues that is going to be not in accordance with what we're intending, then I guess I don't really have a concern with simplifying it. But if there's a possibility that some type of pipe is ordered and shows up on site, and I've got to point to AWWA and say, see where it says this is required and you haven't done that, that becomes a little bit problematic for us.
So Ryan, when the contractor calls in for pipe, they're not ordering with or without seal coat. That'd be solely upon the manufacturer and their manufacturing process to be in accordance with the C-104 on a manufacturing level, not on an ordering type level. Does that help?
Yeah, no, and that was my question. So the contractor can't intentionally or inadvertently order the wrong pipe and have it show up. That's the gist of it.
No, they shouldn't be shipping it. That the seal coat is to promote the curing of it. So if the manufacturer can cure the pipe with another method, then he doesn't need it.
Okay, no, that's perfect.
Yeah, he shouldn't be delivering. You shouldn't be getting pipe that's not doesn't meet the spec because it's got to be cured. I guess I'm trying to say before they ship it. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for entertaining my ignorance on the subject. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ryan.
No, it's a fair question, Ryan.
It is.
Not everybody is a water expert like these guys over here. So,
no, but Ryan's right. I mean, nobody has access. That's like a secret code or something to get into AWWA. So it can be problematic sometimes.
no, he shared a right reality. There's a lot of times where we reference this industry specifications, not in MAC. It is like a pay barrier to get to those. So.
But Mr. Chair, just to sum it up, it falls on the responsibility of the manufacturing process and what equipment, what process they have. They have to adhere to the AWWA.
So to put in other words, in my mind, what I'm understanding is that we may be receiving shipments of pipe that meet C-104 and they're not being seal coated to begin with.
Right. Correct.
So
Correct.
Well, according to what Anik was saying, that's the majority of the case nowadays. So you're not getting the seal coat because they don't need it to use it anymore.
All right. With that said, is there an appetite to go for a vote on this particular case?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd be in support. I'll motion to approve this or to move this case to vote.
All right. Thank you, Gene. Is there a second?
This is Roy. I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Roy. I think we can go into roll call, Carter.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Let's see, this is case 2613, revised section 750 ductile iron pipe to make seal coat optional. And let's start with ADOT.
Yes.
Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye. Buckeye, not present. Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence. Lawrence not present. Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear. Goodyear not present. Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa. Mesa,
Yes. Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix,
Yes.
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Rise,
Yes.
Tempe. Tempe not present. Tullison, And Youngtown, also not present. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks, Mr. Chairman. One last thing to do next month.
Moving on then, case 26-14, revision to adjustment ring details 420, 422, and 522. Jen, would you mind walking us through an update?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had the latest revisions based on some comments that I've had previous meetings and working group. The latest revisions were done on the 24th, the last month. And the corrections or changes included on 422-1, note 5, just to add a hyphen to the C 478. So it was consistent with 522, detail 522, a hyphen in between the two. The cross-section adjustment ring detail, remove the reference to reinforcement, as it's going to be contained in note 5. On detail 522, note 1, remove the words to be and replace with per. And then remove abbreviations and periods. With the ASTM, remove those from A.S.T.M. And that was, I think, a suggestion from the working group, I believe, is where I heard that. And then also replace note 4 with concrete adjustment rings per detail 422-1. Then also on detail 522, eliminate the cross-section reinforced concrete adjustment ring. It's not necessary when we can refer back to 422-1. I believe that was a comment that Peter had made. Why do we have it in 2 places? And once I looked at it, I said, yeah, I don't know, Peter, why is it in 2 places? Just put it in 1. That way we can, we only have to change 1. That's all I have. I worked with Hayden on this quite a bit. But for this case, I'd like to move it into action for the next meeting. I think it's ready. I don't know if my CAD guy's ready since he's been out on FMLA, but I'll do my best. I can clean it up in Bluebeam to make it look like a clean version with nothing written in red. The red just kind of indicates some of the most recent changes. And then you can always follow along on the cover sheet that I provide with any of our Glendale cases. So you can follow any changes, historic changes that have been made throughout each meeting.
What is it that you were trying to, sorry, Jen, were you done? I was just gonna ask you. What was the intent of the red lines, just to show that they're level and not a
Yeah, those little
weird step to it?
That's correct. So those the original one was dropped on the inside of that ring. It was dropped like 1.5 inches or something, and nothing's manufactured like that anymore. That's just, it's level all the way across. So I just needed to draw it in with the CAD work and make it match the cross section for the adjustment ring detail.
That's a good, I don't think I ever paid attention to whether or not those.
I
they wasn't dropped with
drafted all
inside.
that in Bluebeam, which was kind of a challenge, but I'll get my CAD guy to make it look a little better.
Gene, one thing you mentioned was the ASTM reference, adding a hyphen. In the ASTM, I don't think that they use hyphens. So rather than adding it there, I think you should take it out wherever it was showing the hyphen
Okay.
in a different one.
For this case, I've seen it in other places with MAG, but for this case, I appreciate you bringing that up. If we're going to pull it out, I'll do it on 522, note 1. It was originally right there. That was an original hyphen. So I'll correct that, and then I will revise my added one and pull out the hyphen there if that's what the committee prefers, or that's what we see consistently.
Yeah, I actually, when you go to the ASTM Compass website, I think that's the case. You don't, there is no hyphen when you
Right.
search for those test methods. There is a hyphen on AASHTO test methods for some reason, but there's only so much the MAC committee can do. No, so does anybody else have a question for Gene? If not, thanks for the update, Gene, and yeah, we're definitely looking forward for potential action next year or next month.
And Mr. Chair, to sum it up, you are correct. The committee is correct. There is no hyphen on the Compass on ASTM. I just verified.
Thank you. Thank you for that live feedback. Right, we'll move on to case 26-15. Revisions to multiple asphalt materials and construction specifications. In the packet, I've included the most recent changes and red line comments and answers. So hopefully it's easier to see the changes from the last previous meeting. This was just an additional review after the first draft was provided. Since then, I can share that the current draft that's in the packet has been reviewed by McDOT. So thank you, Marty, for connecting us with their lab. They didn't provide any material changes to the specification. I think they show agreeance with most of the changes that are shown in here. And then I believe also this was discussed at a recent EVAC meeting as well, where they didn't share any concerns with the changes being proposed either. So I'm not sure if there's anybody out there that has or is planning on providing any comments. I will for the next meeting for sure, I'll have a cleaned up version of all the comments and anything that comes up in the next couple of weeks. But if there's nothing else, we definitely are shooting for hopefully approving this case this year. So.
Hey, Jose, this is Warren. I've reached out here internally and our folks have no comments. They're still in favor. Haven't heard from everyone, but I think that's going to be my understanding.
Okay, no, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, I think materials wise, I can share that there's been a lot of discussion at the working group level, right? I think everybody is in agreement that this is an improvement to the overall general specifications. The only thing I will flag up for the people that are not materials related is just this particular specification now it's at the requirement that top surface materials are going to be polymer based asphalt concrete for collectors and arterials. That's probably the most significant change outside of any materials improvement. So.
I believe there is still language in there that if a municipality wanted to specify one of the other applications, they could,
Okay.
but generally speaking.
Yes. Thanks for that clarification. Yeah. And I will share the comment. There's still a modification here to the old rubber specifications. It's our understanding that there's at least one agency out there that uses rubber, crumb rubber as a base or as a paving material. That's why that's being left in there.
It is extremely rare, but it does happen.
So
If I can't comment as to whether we should remove it or not, but it does not happen very often. That is correct.
yes, I think at one point we should consider retiring that specification because it inadvertently gets published.
It does, and the use of the nomenclature RAC, rubberized asphalt concrete, can be confusing
Yes.
as to what technology is used there, whether that's a wet process rubber or what we would call a terminal blend rubber.
Correct, yes. And for those purposes, because then the people that truly know the difference, then they truly get confused what the intent is. So. So that's mainly the update. Does anybody have any comment or question on this case?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to note that there was a meeting with EVAC on the pavement cases. And there were a few attendees of that, a lot of people from Mesa. We went through it, and Mesa is strongly supporting this. Obviously, we have a pavement manager that's been involved in working on this, and Mesa is strongly in support of this. We're hoping to minimize the differences that we have and amendments that we have as this case goes forward. We did send out some additional information to the EVAC committee members and just wanted to bring that up, let everyone know that this was something we're looking at very strongly and are supporting.
All right. Thank you, Ryan, for that effort and that extra coordination. Yes, I think my goal is for the next meeting, or probably before that, for the materials working group, we have a cleaned up version of this. And then let that be the final review, and hopefully from there, present the final version that we can at one point just put it out for action, so.
So this case, Mr. Chair, will go up for action next meeting?
No, in September.
Okay.
Yes. Oh,
It'd be
yes.
That would
August.
be October.
All right. No, then let's put it up for action. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, if ultimately there's still comments, then they'll potentially have to roll over. So. All right. Anything else? If not, then we'll move on to the out of right of way cases, Peter. The first one, 26-8, new spillway details.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in the outside right-of-way meeting, you'll see first in the packet, there is a revised version with language change. The proposed modification from what was discussed last meeting in 510-3 is the only redlined one we have on there. Just as a note, we have removed any reference toward changes toward section 220. That will be discussed at a later date, so this is based on whatever is in existing 220. And that I think resolves some of the issues that were coming up. This one, the only proposed modification that is shown on here is the change that was requested that we get rid of the half. Yeah, I think it was the 2.5 to 1 slope on there and just have it a straight, from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1, because it was from a measuring perspective challenging. And so we did that. That was the only comment we had on any of the cases. The remainder simply just reference section 220. Whatever the placement method is, it is for grouted riprap, and we kept it clean that way. Now, we did have one more comment that's not shown on these changes that came up during the meeting. And since this had already been issued because we had a late meeting, the county proposed that since these are not just for retention basins, and it was agreed upon by many members who are attending of the working group, that we should probably not be calling any of these retention basin whatever spillways. These are really drainage spillways. That also ties to the prior cases that we had last year for the concrete, ones for curb cuts and for scuppers. So one thing we would like to add to this case is to change the titles on all these to say, for example, on the one that's up there, it would say grouted riprap drainage spillway, because they're used in multiple applications. And again, we didn't have a chance to get a one in there. So we'd get rid of the words retention basin on everything, and we would add the word drainage where appropriate. So yeah, again, For most of these, it would be either riprap drainage spillway, grouted riprap drainage spillway. And then on the prior ones, there'd be 510-1 and 510-2. We get rid of retention and we just replace with drainage. So it's a drainage spillway. Again, these are open conveyances that could be used for multiple applications. So that seemed to be a reasonable thing. So that'd be the only change we're proposing to show beyond what was marked up in red. And otherwise, I'm open for any questions. We hadn't received any other comments other than make sure we don't change 220 at this time.
Peter, this is Warren. Yeah, I like that idea of changing the name on that. That makes sense. Just a couple minor comments. Up in the upper left, you have the scupper opening. I think looks like a typo on opening or misspelled there.
Oh, yeah.
And then it says scupper opening per plan, see mag detail 206. And then we have that same note above, right? Concrete scupper per mag detail 206. You might be able to, I don't know.
Okay, so let's go to which detail. You got 4 showing, because I think this is repeated on everyone, including the ones from last year. So we got the word opening.
Yeah.
And where was there something else to change on this one, or just in the note that's on the far left side?
Just the two notes. I don't know. It seems like you might just be able to just say scupper opening per plans. Well, because we have both the 206-1. Oh, no, that works. Okay. Just the spelling is all I'm seeing. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll get that corrected on that. And since we're throwing 501 or 510-1 and 2 in there, I can fix it there because we had the same on the prior. Okay, I can get that fixed.
And then over on the right, you have that C note too, there with some lines over it. You might want to fix that. Just left of on section AA, just might be a little hard to read right there. Yeah.
Oh, the lines running through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if that's on the prior year one. It is not. It's probably, yeah, prior year one, we did not have that problem. 3. That one, it doesn't happen. That one, it doesn't happen.
I think it's on -6 and -7.
C note 3, that should be changed to just note 3 like all the rest. Somehow we got a C in there, and on the rest of them, it just says note 3. That fits within the line. So I'll get that one uniform. And I'm slowly working on converting these to a CAD from the version that you see here. We'll get in a CAD system.
That was gonna be my next question.
It's in the process. I had it fairly far along till I realized the version I've got is a web version.
Okay.
And apparently when you hit save, sometimes it doesn't save. So it was almost done. It was not a good day when I found that out. So I'll work with Gordon on that too. You usually help me. I'll get it. I almost had these there, and I've got another day or so to go back to where I was. Hit save, get out of it, get back in, make sure it's saved.
All right.
So it's in progress.
So you think, what is your sense on this? Is it something that you can potentially have ready for the next meeting and?
Well,
have a
yeah, these
potential-
changes are minor
Oh,
on here.
I think we've been discussing this most of the working year, so.
Yeah, these have been around for a while, so I'd like to have a vote on them on the next meeting.
Yeah, I think if there's a clean version on the packet, I think it's a fair game to put this out. for
Yeah,
potential
it shouldn't be hard in terms of the existing 510-1 and 510-2. If I don't have those, it may be able to ask to get a copy of those ones. I should have it, but I'm not sure. If you'd send it to me anyway, just make sure. And then I can get the spellings corrected and make it look right. Okay.
Any other last minute comment on this case? If not, we'll move along to case number 16. Multiple barrel detention backfill details for corrugated metal pipe. Just a brief update to everybody. The current version that is shown on the package it was provided. The red lines for this were provided last time. This is just the final version. The last change that we did on this had to do with the notes related to the edge of the trench. Just to be more inclusive, that edge of the trench can be slope back trench, not necessarily just a vertical trench with shoring. Outside of that, there hasn't been any other new changes or revisions. And I think at the working group level, everybody's comfortable with the current version as it is. This is up for potential action. So I'm not sure if anybody else has any other comments or potentially if we're good with entertaining a vote. I like not to motion myself, being that it's my case and I'm the chair. So if there's support out there to go move forward with the vote on this one.
Mr. Chair, I would motion to vote on this case.
Thank you, Gene. Is there a
Is that a
second?
motion to approve?
What was that?
I said, is that a motion to approve?
Motion to vote. So approve, yeah, approve to vote. Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, this is the outside right-of-way case 26B or the CMP multiple and actually both single and multiple barrel detention tank details or backfill details. ADOT,
Yes.
Avondale,
Yes.
Buckeye, Chandler,
Yes.
El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear, Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Phoenix.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Peoria. Peoria, Dan, did you say yes?
Hi, Dan, are you still there?
Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Paulison, and Youngtown are not present. So the motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll move on to the working group reports. Starting with the water and sewer working group. Jim, can you give us an update?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we met on July 21st. Basically, I'll just keep it short. We did basically just wrapped up some of the cases we just talked about already. One thing we did kind of a short discussion on is some cases for next year. Some cases you might see next year are the FRP pipe, pressure pipe. So kind of large diameter fiberglass reinforced pipe for use like water and higher pressures. You'll see that. We're working on some standardizing some sewer video testing. That'll be in 611. What else we talked about? Also talked about probably it'll be one of my cases bringing forth some large manholes for large diameter pipe. MAG doesn't really have a really good detail for the larger diameters, you know, like 24 and larger. Adding new manholes on existing lines. So I think we're going to try to have that case. We're trying to create a case for that. So that was really about it. We're going to meet on August 18th. This will be probably our last meeting of the year. And so I know we got a couple of things we want to wrap up here. So thanks to everybody that's working on cases, Warren and Arvid. We hopefully get these things wrapped up, and so we can get them voted on next month. So that's going to be our goal at the next meeting. So.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Moving right along to outside right away. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've discussed a lot of what we talked about in terms of the existing MAG cases already. So I'm going to jump more to what we were talking about as potential cases for next year. One was looking at, because now we have this model for other detention tanks, going ahead and expanding into different types of detention tanks from the CMPs. So there's active work on the precast concrete pipe option. That should be ready, I think, easily by January to present to the committee. Cast in place pipe option, that's going to be looked at, see if they could be modified now. We had some existing work on that. Focus again on the construction installation as opposed to the entrance details and those kinds of things, get those modified. And then we had a discussion with industry on the precast or pre-made types of ones, the poly, the plastic, if you want to call it, for anything else. Types, and industry is going to take that on, I think, as a challenge, try to see if they can get those. So our goal next year is then to introduce the other types of detention tanks. So we've got the full menu of options available. With that, though, there's also the discussion on having a new detail that would be applicable toward all of the tanks, or at least most of them, for the riser and the cover, the drain, actually the top stuff that goes into it, as opposed to trying to use the existing concrete manhole connection system in MAG. So I think that's the other aspect. We're going to try to make this a bit more comprehensive next year and get all the pieces put together for detention systems. We didn't have much discussion on Section 220 other than saying this is going to have to be a separate working group. We're going to get together. We've got some names of people. During the latter part of the year, we'll try to get that up and running to where we can get people into a discussion and see if, how, and where 220 could be revised. Didn't have a discussion on 796 other than we know Evan is continuing to work on it. Other things we did talk about, though, I think, were the dry wells. I think that was the other topic on potentially looking at having a session of dry well details. I think we've got some potential volunteers to help on that. I can't think of anything else we talked about. I think it covers, we're basically talking about potential cases.
Well, other than the fall prevention safety rail.
Oh, yeah, and what we talked about earlier and having that fall prevention, encompassing having something that would fill in that gap of when do you need to have some kind of safety rail, under what conditions, and that ties in the discussion we had earlier today. Our next meeting is scheduled for August 20th at 10:30. It'll be a MS Teams meeting, and you can take any questions if you have some.
All right, no questions. Moving right along to the materials working group, Alex.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been working hard on the City of Phoenix inclusions from their supplement into MAG, and then a lot on 710 and those amendments. I really want to thank the City of Phoenix. I want to thank Mesa. I want to thank all the industry partners that have worked really, really hard on that case. It's not very often in my career, at least, that I've seen that many people agreeing and working that hard on something. So I really appreciate that effort. If there are any comments, we are eagerly seeking those from this group, from those people involved. This affects everybody in this room in some form or fashion. We want this to be good for everybody. And looking forward to action next month if that is at all a possibility, and we'll have that clean version for September.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And I think last ADA working group, Warren.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. So yeah, we have a little summary of the 80 from the last meeting. If you wouldn't mind going back up to the top there. So, thanks, thanks, Gordon. So yeah, one of the topics, and I haven't been able to get back to, is find out the results from the July meeting for the ADA symposium. Something we can share maybe at the next meeting from the breakout sessions for PROAG, to see if there was anything shared in terms of status or any other new information shared. So that's on my list to do. So for the next meeting, but for the most part, the discussion from this meeting was parallel to what we've already talked about. The scupper detail, street sign detail, things like that. Still working on some other existing details that might be future cases for next year. The on-street parking detail, once we have the sign detail, I'll shift back to working on that. Also, similarly, the crosswalk detail, had a fairly close draft on that, so that might be a case for next year. The isometric view, still looking to refine that and to get a little more industry support. We've had some support, just have to probably give them more clear direction and get them back on board. But that would be an additional page for the directional detail series, is what we're thinking. So that's probably going to be something next year if we're going to continue to do that. This other potential details, Tempe's brought up possibly the speed cushion detail. That's something that if they have some bandwidth, I think they might have interest doing that maybe next year. And the bike ramp detail, I think everyone seemed to be on board coming up with a detail for that. Potentially, I think Scottsdale may have something like that we can talk to them more about. So I think those are the main updates from last month. And then I guess our final meeting would be the August 20th meeting. Jose, did I miss anything?
No, I think you cover all, Warren. I think, like you mentioned, I think we need to gain traction on the isometric view ramps, but that's probably, hopefully we can start putting up a case sometime next year on that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Potential cases for 2027. I think the working groups are capturing most of this. Does anybody have any potential case that they want to discuss that hasn't been discussed at the working group level?
Mr. Chair, I have one that we're going to
Yes.
be floating across the working group at the next meeting. I've been working with ductile iron pipe industry. We're looking at the poly wrap. We're looking at zinc coated pipe. So this would be for section 750. Jim, that'll be coming your way at the next meeting, but it'll address 750 for that. We had a presentation on the design decision model and aggressive environments for corrosion and how to use that, and then proper polyethylene encasement, incorporating V-Bio into the standard. We've adopted it into the new Glendale standard for obvious reasons, and then zinc coated pipe and how to the manufacturing, the transport, and potentially the repair of any zinc coating. So,
Right. And zinc coating is in lieu of polywrap?
Yes.
Okay.
It can be used in conjunction. That's all defined by the design model. But primarily just to get zinc coated pipe for extra protection for extra corrosion protection into the standard.
All right. Thank you, Eugene. Anybody else? All right. Next item, staff report, Gordon. Is there anything?
Just a brief reminder, it looks like we are going to have a lot of things on the agenda for action next month. So the sooner that you can get your final cases to me, that would be appreciative, because I probably won't be able to handle 10 last minute cases on the day that the agenda goes out. So If you have yours ready, please send it as soon as you can. Thank you.
Yes, I'll include myself in that list. We gotta do better this month, so. Right. General discussion, does anybody else have anything to talk about?
Mr. Chair, I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to commend you guys for being able to get a meeting to 3:30. That is totally awesome.
I'm always looking at my clock when I look at you, Paul.
I appreciate it.
And okay, moving right on to request future agenda items. Obviously, it's too late to add anything to the agenda for next month, or even if we have a meeting in October, but if anybody has any presentation, industry presentations they want to start, the beginning of the year is the best time for those kind of things. I think at the outside right-of-way group, we're gonna have one for dry wells first, because that's probably more appropriate for that team. But definitely just consider that. And I don't know where this one falls, Gordon, but I know at one point we're gonna thank Paul for his participation. I know for those that haven't heard, Paul is probably on his last year attending this committee, so I don't know if that's something we need to formalize through a meeting. Gordon?
We can add a recognition at the beginning if you'd like.
Okay. Yep. And last item, comments from the committee, anything anybody wants to share related to current events? If not, well, thanks, everybody. I think we approved a lot of cases today, so it was a good productive meeting. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.